Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you for being here with us on another Tesseract event. For those of you who have not visited our website, you can learn more here. So today we're going to be talking about Web3. We're going to talk a lot about tokenomics. We're going to be talking about the future of the whole space, as well as some themes like the metaverse and NFTs. And a few words about the Tesseract Academy before we start. The goal of the Tesseract Academy is to help decision makers implement and understand technology faster, easier, and better. And we help companies of all sizes. We work a lot with senior professionals and managers, but we have in our clientele both startups, but also bigger organizations. We specialize primarily in AI, and in terms of Web3, we specialize in tokenomics. And we operate a network of experts from many different areas, from project management, fintech, product, all the way to Web3. And in terms of who I am, my name is Stelios Kabakis, and I've spent, let's say, more than 10 years, basically my whole career in AI and data science, and half of my career in blockchain and primarily tokenomics. I was one of the first researchers in this area. And it's a topic I'm still very passionate about. I've also written two books, one about data science and one which covers both data science and blockchain. If you just drop me an email at any of those emails addresses, I'm more than happy to send you the PDFs for free. And here are some testimonials. I mean, you're going to find many of those testimonials on our website, whether you're talking about senior professionals and entrepreneurs, like you see here, or bigger organizations. So these are companies that we help with our AI services, with our coaching, with our development services, both in data science and Web3. And today, we're going to have a very exciting panel. I'm going to be the moderator for this panel, and we're very happy to have Dr. Marcel Moiler and Hala Faisal. Hala is a professor of economics in Lebanon, and Marcel is a deep tech expert running his own consultancy based in Germany. And we're going to be talking about tokenomics and Web3. So I'm going to be sharing the questions. I'm going to be asking our panelists various questions. But in the meantime, the goal of the panel is always to have a dialogue. So if any of you, they want to provide their input, if you have any comments, feel free to write in the chat. Okay, so actually we'd like to hear from you and to make this a more lively conversation. This is not an interview. This is a discussion within a group of experts and our participants. So that being said, I'm going to kick off with the first question. And the first question is, what do you think of the future of NFTs? Okay, so we saw lots of hype around NFTs. We saw some really crazy stuff. Okay, we saw some like insane valuations. And then there was initially lots of positivity followed with lots of negativity, that like, oh, NFTs, they're a scam, they're this, they're that. However, at the same time, there are some people that voice the opinion that actually NFTs is a very interesting technology, and maybe it's just not being used in the right way. So it's not about, selling pictures of rocks. Maybe it's about, using NFTs to tokenize land registry and titles of ownership or whatever. So that being said, I'd like to ask you, Marcel, what do you think of the future of NFTs? Now we're in a bear market, but let's say in 2, 3, 4 years from now, how do you see NFTs being used?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. I think this kind of hype cycle of 5,000 euro JPEGs is kind of over. There are still projects that probably do that. But I think these are like with all new technologies or all kind of innovation that you have that in the beginning, that type of Wild West situation where everybody wants to get in. There's some hype without many people not understanding the fundamentals behind the technology. And I think we are slowly moving away from that kind of situation. And we are getting into something where we are actually making business models that are more connected to the real world, that are, let's say, in the NFT space. So as I said, I think you said it's less about rocks, but it's more about what can you connect an NFT to, or what is that asset behind an NFT. So for example, real estate, right? In real estate, you have a real problem. It's when it comes to writing over an asset from one person to another. It takes forever, it's bureaucratic, it takes 5 different middlemen, and it is just an unpleasant process. My dad recently, got a piece of real estate in Germany, and it took like half a year to just get that building transferred to him until it's in every register, land titles, cataster, etc. So I think when you have a situation where you have in a real world situation a problem with a process that is centered around an asset, then it makes kind of sense to look into if it makes sense to use an NFT for that. I recently know, it's already some time ago, where I published an article about what I call a cyber physical asset. So an asset that is not only an NFT, and the value is not only the NFT, but there's something that it represents other than an image or so. So it's basically a digitalized version of a real world asset, and you have a bridge between the real world and the digital world. And if you ask me how the future of that of NFTs will look like, I believe that there will be a lot of use cases that will be driven from traditional corporates, because they have a problem in the real world, and the technology is a solution to that. And I believe that there will be still the crypto punks, rocks, collectors for different pieces of art that will still be there, but it will not be on the level of hype that it was before. I mean, look how many art collectors are there in the world. It's also some kind of a stable number, and this is what I think also that part will come to. But the other part, where you have what I call a cyber physical asset, there's just so many more use cases to explore, and that will come up over the next couple of years. And that's for me what is really exciting about it.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's always the same cycle, right? So new technology comes out, and then you see all kinds of crazy stuff happening, and then it matures, and eventually we're going to hopefully see some real use cases. I think there's still going to be an art component, but I think the speculation, like the degree of speculation we saw, was insane. Let's face it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing that we have seen with the other hype products in the Web3 world, right? When the first tokens came out, the first ERC20 tokens, also everybody was just running to that and following that. In the end, I mean, there are still tokens, but a lot of the spam went away, and now you have also traditional businesses looking into it. Central banks are looking into CBDCs. Companies are looking into programmable money, into actual micropayments for real world use cases for IoT and so. And I think the same cycle will also be there in NFTs, or in whatever the next type thing in Web3 will be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this brings me to my next question, where my next question is essentially the same, but around the metaverse, right? So again, we saw Facebook changing its name to Meta. Okay, so that was one thing. And then everyone went crazy about the metaverse and virtual land and Decentraland. And then it all collapsed. And now Facebook apparently is doing financially better after the layoffs. No kidding. I mean, now they've reduced their costs by like a huge percentage. But you don't hear about the metaverse as much. So what's your opinion on that? Do you think there's going to be a metaverse in 2-3 years? Is it the rebranding of VR and AR and whatever 90s technology couldn't take off? Or what's really the deal with it?
Well, it's like with every innovation, where you have your first experiments, trying things out, and then it matures also over time into something that has business cases behind it. And even though people don't want to admit it sometimes, but there's also just business behind all of these innovation. And the question for the metaverse for me really is like, what is the use case on an industrial level that might drive that? What is it on a personal level? So how might consumers want to use the metaverse? And honestly, I don't think there will be the metaverse. Like you go, it's the same like you go on the internet, but not everybody who's on the internet does the same things, right?
Yeah.
You have different websites, you have different people, you have social networks and everything. And I think also the metaverse will be just a term for a collection of different parts of this metaverse with certain business models and with certain ways of interact. And the question right now is for me, what is that very first use case that makes it actually to the metaverse, not for the sake of being in the metaverse, but having a better experience than being in the outside metaverse. For the internet, right? E-commerce in the late 1990s when it started off with Amazon and everything, you could order books and new stuff where you usually would have to drive a couple of miles into a shop, and then they didn't have the book, and then they had to order it for you. So there was an existing problem, and the internet gave something to it. And my question that I cannot answer right now is, what is that use case for the metaverse that will eventually make it there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the metaverse is like a very broad term, right? So it's not just the crypto or VR or AR. And I don't know, Hala, whether you have an opinion on this. Like, what's your take on that? Hala? Can you hear us? Wait, I think this. Okay, yeah, no, you're unmuted. I think there's just a problem with the earbuds.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you now. I think there was just a problem with your headphones. Sometimes I've seen this happening with other people, like they click and then the connection goes off.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you hear us? We can hear you.
Okay, let me put again my okay, if you can hear me, I can speak now. Okay, so yes, I can add to what you've just been saying, that the future of the metaverse, basically, I can see it depends on how well it can meet the two basic needs of all people, mainly to connect with other people and to make things. So it is always being improved, and I guess in the very near future, industries like e-commerce, sales, marketing, DeFi, and crypto businesses should be very well aware of the importance of using the metaverse. So the question is, will the metaverse be successful? I was reading a report by the Global Data. The global metaverse market was valued 22.8 billion in I guess in 2021, and it's forecasted to grow up at a rapid around 40% compounded annual growth rate. So this report was at the end of December 2022. So basically, there are very or basically proponents argue that if done right, the virtual worlds of the metaverse will actually increase, improve collaboration, speed up training, and basically reduce the need for office space and make work a happier place in general.
Marcel, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot about where it gets in the end and what the use case is. I think this is mostly the point for all type of adoption of a technology on where we're getting to. I think we have in the chat a very interesting question by Luca, who is asking if we are talking about the industrial metaverse versus the consumer metaverse. Are there different spaces and are there different use cases? I think that goes pretty much to that direction, right? Luca, I think this is a very nice way of thinking about it. Yeah, I think there are different use cases for industry and for consumers. These industry and the consumers might use the same technology, but the use cases are differently. So I don't know, a very stupid example, virtual reality, right? You could imagine that in that metaverse, you use a virtual reality headset to go in a 3D version of Decentraland Stelios and meet up with your friends. Yeah, that is a consumer way of that's a consumer use case application. What the business model behind that is it's not important, but in the same way, you could also think about using the same technology, but for a different use case in the industrial space. So you could also use a VR headset or some sort of an AR headset to help with industrial maintenance of real world, hardware assets. I've been working with a project that was doing maintenance on, I think it was something like steam turbines or so, where the field engineer had a little display here giving him instructions and sets and what the components of the thing are. So I think there will be, even though these two use cases, one the consumer and one the industrial use case, have used the same kind of technology, the applications are different, and also the value that it brings to these users are different, and that will be overall, I think, what comes into the direction of the metaverse.
Yeah, I think that's another great point, right? So because I think it's the metaverse, in some ways, some people consider it synonymous with crypto and blockchain and Web3, like Decentraland. But at the same time, if you're just using a VR environment to, I don't know, visualize an engine, a car engine, is this the metaverse? It's kind of a version of the metaverse in some ways, right? And I see there's like another question. I don't know what kind of businesses will benefit the most. I mean, if I can give like my take on this, for me, what I find the most interesting is not the businesses that will adopt the metaverse, but the new business models that everyone's talking about that might arise in the metaverse. So obviously we saw the, virtual land. I'm not sure how well that's going to go. But it's an interesting idea, and I don't know whether you, Marcel, or Hala, you have any opinion around those. Which businesses might use the metaverse, or which business models we might see in the near future.
Yeah, I guess basically software development and cloud services. Basically, I also think about the business intelligence and the data science analytics will basically be more benefiting from the metaverse than others. And basically, the metaverse will be somehow sort of a golden opportunity for businesses to also advertise their products, just like the physical world. The virtual world will have the spaces to promote products and services. And I also assure that there will be virtual concerts and events that businesses can sponsor and increase their visibility. So basically, they can do things much more easier in the very near future.
I mean, we have to define the right businesses that we're looking to. You have, on the one hand, support businesses that are supporting a certain business use case. So a software development agency only has work if there's software to be developed. On the other hand, I completely agree with the point is there needs to be some sort of a benefit of doing something in the metaverse. And I would, as a rule of thumb, I would say, if you have a situation where it's hard to do something in the real world, yeah, for example, collaborating or having conferences also. So that would be one of the use cases I would be interested into, is having actual metaverse conferences, because these online conferences, at least for scientific conferences, kind of suck, because you do not have the interaction and the engagement that you do have with when being in person. But whenever you have a situation like that, where you have this, where you want to resemble something that is really the structure of something that you have in the real world, but you cannot do it physically together in one place, then that would be, for me, a first indicator there might be an actual business behind something like that.
Yeah, that's another great point. I think that the great use case that not many people are talking about is that the metaverse could actually help those who have mobility issues to access maybe things like concerts, sports events, And actually, we should hear more about these types of use cases which benefit the society as a whole, instead, I don't know, of like cartoon apes, like poorly designed, which you can barely call them artwork, right? And I see that like some other like questions on the chat, like whether there are any key benefits for the entertainment industry. Where if you want to take on this, I think that there will be, like, you know, Avatar, for example, now is out on the cinemas, and you know there's a lot of this like 4D and whatever. I probably see more immersive experiences in the near future around cinema, video games. And I mean, so I'm just skipping through the questions because we also have to cover tokenomics on this panel. I really like the question around why someone would buy an empty virtual land for 0.23 million. The real answer is I have no clue. Probably someone's like, I don't know whether you have an opinion.
I can tell you an answer.
Okay.
Julie asked that, and that's it's a philosophical answer, but it's because they believe in it.
Yeah.
When you think about value and what in our world has value and what has an intrinsic value and what has an interpreted value, you have only three things on this world that really have an intrinsic world, and that's food, drinks, and shelter, because every human being needs these three things. Everything else in this world does not have an intrinsic value. It has a value.
The internet. You need to add the internet.
That's true. It has a value because your socioeconomic environment tells you so or requires it from you, right?
No, that's true.
I need a MacBook because I have a business and my people are online, and I need to have that. But it doesn't mean there's an intrinsic value to it. But that's the same principle that you have with NFTs. You have a belief and you have somebody else in your socioeconomic group, whoever that is, who gives you the feeling that you need to have that asset to do certain things. And when you think about that, someone would buy it for 4.3 million, like an empty piece of virtual land, if they have to believe and if they perceive that as the value to be. It's very philosophic, but if these are questions that interest you, go deep and think really about what has value in your life and why you think it has value in their life. And when you're down the rabbit hole, you might find an answer to that.
Hala, do you have an opinion on this? And I wanted to ask before you answer whether you think that maybe tokenomics will head towards that direction, whether we'll see the emergence of, I don't know, like virtual land valuations or something along those lines.
Okay, let me answer the question about why should I buy a virtual land? Well, from an economic perspective, it's a way to represent an asset that can be exchanged for crypto or real money. So virtual land also comes with many interesting opportunities. I mean, users can rent out their virtual land or even turn it into a business to sell products and services if they choose to do so. So, and one important thing emphasized by Marcel is that they need to believe. I mean, actually, virtual land forms the backbone of crypto-powered metaverse platforms like Decentraland and the Sandbox. And with legacy big technology players like Meta drawing up plans for their own metaverses. So it's a reality, and it's set to become a key of differentiation between, let's say, these decentralized and decentralized metaverse offerings.
And around the tokenomics modeling, Hala, do you think that like, for example, with land, essentially what happens, for example, I think in a, let's say, property market, you see like the market self-regulating after a point. So even if there are no, let's say, proper statistical models of how a land should be valued, they might see that, you know, the market itself reaches a consensus around the price. So I think with the metaverse, we saw speculation driving the prices. And something that I'm wondering is whether in 5 or 10 years from now, we know that, there are like real use cases on Decentraland, like, for example, there are events happening, sports events, and I'm talking about some real useful use cases. Like earlier, I mentioned how people with mobility issues might be able to access sports or concerts, sports events or concerts in this way. So do you think that at that point in time, we might be able to start developing some, let's say, new economic models for that? I'm asking because it's a question I've been pondering myself, and I think it will be very, very interesting. And I think it might be possible, but I'm not sure we have enough data right now. I just wanted to see your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, basically, as most of you are well known, tokenomics can be defined as the study of determining and evaluating the economic characteristics of a cryptographic token. And yes, tokenomics have had much hype, and it has been evolving throughout the years. And basically, data shows that the vesting periods and cliff lengths have generally increased over the last couple of years. Because traditional technology companies appear to be taking the route. So basically, companies are increasingly using interesting distribution methods, and many protocols basically underestimate the demand side of tokenomics. So recently, the science of tokenomics have been evolving, but yet, from my own point of view, the whole science of tokenomics is still in its infancy. Why? Because basically, protocols still underestimate demand side and pay too little attention to the incentive function of the token. So lots of projects basically do not need a token, but yet they are going and trying to issue a token just because for the purpose of issuing a token. But the token has its own conditions, has its own supply and demand. And basically, trust plays an essential role in the utility of tokens as well. So in the long run, for me, good projects with strong fundamentals and product market fit will basically always win over those with the bad fundamentals. So basically, if I want to do some sort of comparison between tokenomics, let's say 3 to 4 years from now, a new tokenomics model had basically come up into the light, and there are now many key principles of tokenomics design. The most important principles coming into life are the utility of the token, because the utility is basically the key factor stating that where is the demand coming from. And the things that basically tokenomists do not evaluate well so far is that the value that the ecosystem creates should be captured by the token in some measure. And basically, we should also be asking ourselves, does the token we create go to the individuals that add value to the ecosystem? So this value added component is of a great role. It has a great role to play.
Okay, and I think this brings me to the next question, that is, where do you see tokenomics in a few years from now, essentially the next bull run, which who knows when it might be, like in 1, 2, 3 years? Like in 2017, 18, we had lots of ICOs, lots of tokenomics models that were, I mean, not that great, like they were pretending they're utility tokens, they were really not. And then we saw the emergence of DeFi, now NFTs. And I think many people in the community, many founders, as well as investors, are coming to the realization that pretty much, like you said, it's not just about tokenomics, investing schedules and all that. It's really about the business, the product market fit. But that being said, where do you see some of the future of tokenomics? Like, are we going to see like more 2-token designs, 3-token designs, more DeFi? Are we going to see some new type of token offering? What's your opinion on that?
Yes, well, that's a great question. If you want me to put a title for my answer, basically I can answer that it's all heading to a real, tangible value. I mean, I believe we're basically entering a new phase of tokenomics where it will become essential to provide real value. By this, I mean some way to use the token to access particular benefits or the so-called the value driving utility. I mean, not just the ability to vote in governance or the hopes of some future source of value, no, but actual value today. I mean, all of the science, all of this hype going around tokenomics is basically searching for value. So currently, in the meantime, virtually no tokens do this. And early DeFi projects like Compound and Uniswap have achieved large market caps without direct paths to value from the token. So, and basically, if I want to say in cases like Uniswap, the protocol doesn't even take revenue. So for this early project, token value is often based on speculation that the protocol might eventually introduce revenue and that token holders might basically have some way to access it. So if I want to focus more on the topic here, the future of tokenomics, it's basically it should be it's heading toward focusing on the participant, not the token holder. I mean, tokenomics is currently shifting from the so-called a participant-centric system. It's basically shifting to a participant-centric system because it's encouraging all of its participants to be co-owners of the protocol. So emphasizing on this means that the more tokens the participant owns, the more they benefit from participating in the protocol. And this is basically the most important things being discussed with tokenomics right now, because this focuses on participants rather than holder is the key. Because the question is now changed to be how every participant is incentivized to own the token. And how does this basically amplify their experience instead of asking, what do the token holders get? So I hope you spotted the difference here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from your answer, I understand that maybe we're going to see many developments. And I think we're already seeing this in governance, because it's a way for many projects that maybe they don't have, let's say, actual utility to say, look, at least you participate in this project, it's a DAO, you know, whatever you want to call it, and this in its own, it has some utility. I think one of our participants mentioned they want to hear more about DAOs. Marcel, do you have a take on this?
Well, I'm very skeptical of DAOs, I have to say, because when you look actually into the DAOs of today, they are right by different by the name decentralized or autonomous organizations. Most of them aren't decentralized, most of them aren't really autonomous, and most of them in terms of organizations, yeah, well, you can call everything an organization if you want, but when you look into big protocols and you see how centralized also what is going to be beyond that, or how the majority of the token holders in a certain DAO have centralized power, you question kind of this model behind the DAO. So if there would be an actual decentralized DAO where you have, you know, equality and where you have a certain mechanics behind it, this can be a model for a lot of interesting businesses and ways to make decisions collaboratively. But if they are like a lot of the DAOs that we have today are more or less centralized in a oligopoly of a couple of different hands, then you know, you might question a little bit the future of the concept. There's not a wrong and a right answer here. It's just about you know, how it's implemented and how it's evolving.
Yeah, that's the thing, that I think in crypto we see many let's say trends come and go. So I think DAOs, I remember last year when I read some report saying that most DAOs have a participation problem, which was, I guess, to a large extent what led to the development representative democracy. As you know, people don't want to participate, and then they delegate to others. So it feels like the whole crypto space just essentially replicated, I don't know, 2,500 years of political science, which is a bit crazy. I guess the humans, they keep running in loops. That's more of a philosophical note. Another question I have, let's say tokenomics aside, which obviously is still a consideration, but I don't know how much you've delved into the new Ethereum contenders like Sui and Aptos. I'll be honest with you, I've been hearing a lot about them. I didn't have the time to do my proper due diligence, but it's crazy. Like every year, there's like a new Ethereum killer, a new layer one, and they seem all of them like they're doing the same thing, but they're like many small technical differences. And I'd like to hear your opinion on where do you see this whole space of layer ones going. Like my personal opinion is that eventually at some point in the future, we'll probably see a few of them dominating because I think they're like operating systems. But despite this intense competition, it looks like there are more and more of them coming out. So what's your opinion on this? Like, do you think Ethereum is probably still going to be like the main operating system for Web3 in the near future? We will see something else. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it will not be a complete centralized thing, so everything will be on Ethereum and everything else dies. I don't believe that we are getting there, but I still believe that Ethereum will be the predominant force just by the size of the ecosystem, the majority of the ecosystem, and the people who are involved. And copying something that matches the research ecosystem, the developer ecosystem that is currently all tied to the Ethereum ecosystem. I see that becoming like a really, really hard thing where you need to have a massive amount of money just to recreate something that is in that term. So no, of course, no one knows what the future will bring, but my bet would be that Ethereum will still be the backbone of a lot of projects in there.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it had a first mover advantage. And Hala, what do you think? Oh, by the way, I think we lost your video.
Yeah, yes, I'm having basically troubles in connection, but it's okay. I can hear you clearly. Yes, I second you. I second your opinion, Marcel, about Ethereum. So far, it's clear until now, and all Ethereum predictions show that it will be basically still leading the future of Web3. And basically, some analysts, they're predicting that the Ethereum could reach high levels by 2025. So yes, this is what it appears so far.
Yeah, so I think we have consensus that probably Ethereum is going to be like the Microsoft Windows of Web3, if we can use this term. And we still have about 10 minutes left. So I'd like to move on to the final question. And then we can see whether any of our participants have any more topics they'd like to discuss. And the final question is about regulation. Yeah, everyone's talking about this, and Mika and this and that act, and the UK is gonna do something else, and whatever, and then CBDCs, and I don't know if the government will take our money or will not take our money. So how do you see regulation affecting crypto? Do you think it's gonna be positive? Do you think it's gonna be negative? Based on conversations you have with clients, with other experts in this area, what's your take?
I think regulation is something that is needed to get actual mainstream adoption. And with mainstream adoption, I don't mean someone downloads an app on the phone and buys an NFT in some sort of a marketplace, has no idea what it's doing, just putting the credit card in there and buying your NFT or so. But for actually mainstream adoption and business models behind it, you need somewhat that you are working with your business in an environment that is not the Wild West. And we are living in a society where there's rules, where you have laws, and regulation, of course, also needs to be then part of that business world that you are creating, even though there is somewhere a token or a blockchain in it. So I think regulation is hardly needed for the overall space to get forward and to maintain and to get now to these people who are too afraid to get into crypto because it's just, you know, it's just a wild mess, and then there's another hype, and then there's NFTs, and then there's tokens and scams everywhere. In order to mature it, in my opinion, regulation is inevitable.
Hala, what do you think?
Yes, basically, I think that applying existing regulatory frameworks to crypto assets or even developing new ones basically is challenging for several reasons. I say that the crypto world is evolving rapidly, and regulators are struggling to basically acquire the talent and learn the skills to basically keep pace given stretched resources and many other priorities. So monitoring crypto markets in my own is somehow difficult to some extent, because data are, let's say, patchy, and regulators find it tricky to keep tabs on thousands of actors who may not be subject to typical, let's say, disclosure or reporting requirements. So it's not an easy task to regulate all of that crypto going on in the crypto world. But since crypto assets basically have been around for more than a decade, and it's only now that efforts to regulate them have moved to the top of the policy agenda. So there is a need worldwide to regulate their work. So this is because it's only in the few past years that crypto assets basically have moved from being niche products in search of purpose to having more mainstream presence as speculative investments. So basically, I guess we're coming into an era where crypto regulations are going to be seen as the main headlines in the crypto world.
I think my personal take on this, to also ask my own question, is I think it's going to be both positive and negative. So I think regulation, in many cases, it stifles innovation. But I think with all this craziness we're seeing, you do need some form of regulation. It's inevitable, right? It's like 3 Arrows Capital, FTX. It's like, it's inevitable. I don't think anyone can really argue and say, oh, you know, FTX, you know, there's really no need for regulation, unless you can have something which is decentralized, and I don't know, you can prove it's so decentralized, where you can say, look, actually, even if this crashes, then there's not really, let's say, an entity or a corporate entity or an individual who's going to benefit from this. But I don't know, it's very complicated. I actually think it's something that has to happen for the space to mature, especially for DeFi. And I think there's a question by Yıldız: is CBDC a threat to crypto? Good question. I think it might actually make crypto stronger in some societies, but I don't know, what do our panelists think? Who would like to go first?
Yeah, I think that CBDCs do not pose a threat to cryptos, and they would actually help build trust among skeptics, because by validating the underlying blockchain technology. So I don't know if Marcel has another opinion on this.
Well, I've been working with central banks on exactly that topic of CBDCs, and I can tell you most of them are still trying to figure out what a CBDC actually is. I mean, if you call a CBDC the regulated version of a crypto token that is pegged to, you know, real world fiat currency, I think it will enable just a lot of more use cases. And if you ask if it's a threat to crypto, I mean, what is crypto? Like, do you think is it the crypto market? Is it speculation? Probably it's a threat to that. Is it real world use cases using somewhere a blockchain and a token for utility? Probably it isn't a threat to that. So it depends on where you draw the line, and also how this CBDC is then enforced and regulated in detail. So I think there's not really a very overarching answer to that.
And there's another question by Luca, who says, do you think MiCA will be applied more or less worldwide the same way, for example, GDPR? I personally believe that this is the intention. I don't know whether you guys they have an opinion on that.
I think everything that the European Union does and that is enforced on everybody in the European Union to be there will at some point raise the questions, what alternative is there to go around? And like the GDPR is, that's what the European Commission calls their export hit. That they have is because just a lot of business is done in the European market, and people who don't want to adhere to GDPR basically have to rule out doing business with anybody in Europe. And for most global businesses, this is not an option. So, Luca, I think there will be some similar situation. How it exactly it will pan out, I can't tell you, but I think there will be a similar situation for MiCA and like the lifetime of and progress of GDPR was.
Hala, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I have nothing to say that sense. Yeah, because covered by Marcel exactly what I was going to say. So let me see if there are any other questions related to any of the subjects, NFTs or tokenomics.
I think we've covered pretty much everything. I'm not sure if there are any.
Can I just comment on something? I just want to have a question really about the CBDC that we've discussed. You guys said it's not really a threat to crypto, but then how CBDC is essentially centralized, right? Central banking digital system. Essentially, it's going to be another central or digital version of the fiat currency, whereas the crypto is based on the blockchain. And if we're talking about the DeFi specifically, it's going to be decentralized finance. And in my view, they're completely two different things. And one can pose a threat to another because of the structure, because of the backend systems that's been applied. So what's your opinion on this?
Julia, let me ask you, what do you mean by is a threat to the other? Do you think, do you define this as if when there's a CBDC widespread adoption, there will be no other crypto market anymore? Or what do you think, or what do you consider, the level, what you think is the threat?
Yeah, it's more like once the CBDC is enrolled fully, will it be that people have to choose between one, so CBDC versus the crypto? Do you know what I mean? So it means that if the CBDC is going to be rolled out, the likelihood of the crypto market value will drop. It's one of the possibilities I was thinking because of the way it's been structured and the way that people actually take it. The whole point of the crypto is because it's decentralized, because we don't want to trust the middleman from this perspective.
No, well, this is you don't want to trust the middleman. This is a very hard this is we can discuss about that for hours basically. You are, even when you're in crypto right now, you are still trusting middlemen because you need to buy your crypto somewhere unless you are mining your own crypto. Then you have to go to cryptocurrency exchanges, and how are cryptocurrency exchanges different from, I don't know, going to a stock exchange today or going to a bank? They're basically doing the same things. They're intermediaries, but the one is regulated for the last decade, and the other one is not. So the two different things are really not that far away from each other. People just think everything is completely decentralized, but in the end, most of the people these days get their crypto from Binance. They use Binance to exchange their fiat over there. It will be, and then there's the part of DeFi that you have to do that. And in my opinion, there will be crypto and crypto economic models that will use CBDCs. So something like in DeFi peer-to-peer lending. I see a lot of use cases on that, and I think even with a CBDC, this would be much better than with crypto lending some Ethereum to somebody. So I don't really see this as a threat if you really get it from a bird's eye view. And that's, of course, when you think, okay, the one is centralized, the other one is decentralized, and yeah, it sounds like the complete opposites. But it's really a question of, if you are someone who would rather trust a decentralized protocol with nobody in between, that there is not a single bug, not a single issue with that, over a central bank, for example, then yeah, it might be a threat to you. But the question is really, are banks really the problem? Are central banks and a government regulating something? Is that really something that you find personally that part of a problem? Then probably CBDCs are a threat to you. I can tell you, I am happy when I forget the number to my online banking, that I can go to my bank, I can call them, I can show them my identity, and they give me then they reset my password. If I forget the recovery phrase of my ledger, or it burns down, I'm done. Yeah, then my whole wealth is done. And I personally, I rather prefer the first option than the second option. But again, that's a personal preference, and I cannot make that decision if that's better or worse for you.
Hala, do you have any final remarks before we go? Because I think our time is up.
Yes, if I want to say, to answer in brief, well, basically, I see that CBDCs and cryptos, they both serve different purposes. So basically, CBDCs basically are also, they're more stable than crypto since they are fiat, but cryptos has the advantage of being decentralized, trustless, and private. So the CBDC versus crypto debate will likely become louder in the years ahead, because it's like the same issues arise, like the lady is asking now. So it's good. It's a good debate between if one is causing threat on the other. But for me, up to this time, I don't see that they are. They basically serve different purposes.
Nice. And okay, looks like many people have to drop off because it's 5 p.m. And probably we have to start wrapping up soon. So if there are no more questions, first of all, I'd like to thank our amazing panelists. Where's the clap? It's here. Okay. So round of applause for our panelists, and thank you all of you for being here with us. Thanks especially all the 33 of you who stayed until the very end. It's clear that Web3, metaverse, tokenomics are super hot topics, and everyone wants to know more about this. Tokenomics, any event we do around blockchain, Web3 gets a lot of people like today, so we're very happy about that. Thank you, Luca. Make sure to drop us an email if you need any help with tokenomics, any questions, etc. And we hope to see you on some other of our events. And make sure to check our company website. There's also a free course on tokenomics there. And there are like many more events coming up this year. So thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of the week, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.